Hey guys, welcome to the booth. We are down the stretch here at the World Championship. That's Randy Buehler, Simon Gutton, Marshall Sutcliffe, and let's head down to the feature match area for the penultimate round here of the World Championship. Hello and welcome to coverage of the Magic World Championship. We're in Nice, France. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Randy Buehler and Simon Gutton. Let's meet our contenders.
My name is Yuuki Ichikawa from Japan. Top Pro Point Japan.
Shaun McLaren, Canada, winner of Pro Tour Born of the Gods.
All right, down in the feature match area, there's Yuuki. Popular streamer from Japan. He's going to play against Shaun McLaren here. Pro Tour champion. The hair is back, we'll also note here. And these players are both sitting at 7-5 in the World Championship. Randy, do you have any idea on where that sets them as far as chances to make the top four at this point?
They have to win, and hope they get help.
Okay, so they are up against it. We have what's effectively an elimination match for top four. And let's see what happens here. It looks like a early land drops being played. The players are on two mid-range style decks. Yuuki is on Abzan Whip, and Abzan mid-range, the more traditional version for Shaun McLaren on the other side of the table. So are we going to see a Thoughtseize? We are indeed. So let's kick things off with a lot of information for both players. Well, for Shaun McLaren here for sure. And he sees a pretty decent hand here, Zeman, from Yuuki.
Yeah, and there's the scary card already. Whip of Erebos is, if you're playing such a mirror, really the dangerous card because it gives you the additional value. It's almost similar to what we saw in Modern with Abzan playing against Birthing Pod, where they just had such a good trump card.
So is that the likely target here for McLaren, assuming he doesn't have any other type of answer for it?
It's the card that's very tough to answer. You can always just play Hero's Downfall on a Cursor of Crewfix, but that you can't do that against the Whip.
Sure. McLaren's taking a look at his own hand. You'll often see this. The players he's basically trying to plan out his next few turns, figure out what he's already got answers to, what he's going to lose to his opponent's Thoughtseize.
Yeah, the Thoughtseize is always an option to take if your hand is just basically better than what your opponent has.
He took the Courser of Crewfix there. That's an interesting choice.
Yeah, no value for you.
At least not right away. All right, so Yuuki gets Temple of Silence here. So again, these players down the stretch here, we have to remember that they've played a lot of Magic over the last couple of days, and it has been some of the most taxing Magic they'll have played in their career. And here's Thoughtseize now for Yuuki. And we're going to get a chance to look at Shaun McLaren's hand, which looks like a pair of Coursers and a pair of Abzan Charms to go with the Plains.
Abzan Charm is not going to exile anything anytime soon, given what we know about Yuuki's hand. And this is going to be interesting because it almost seems like Shaun has a game plan that revolves around his opponent resolving Rip of Erebos and still winning through that, which either means the game has to be over quickly, which this is currently not looking like, or you just have to grind out your opponent some other way.
I guess he was going to lean on those Abzan Charms for drawing a whole lot of cards over the next few turns. Now it looks like he's going to play, well, not a Courser of Crewfix. He doesn't have the second green mana here, so he's going to have to settle for a pretty unexciting play here with Sylvan Caryatid. It'll set him up nicely for the upcoming turns, where he actually gets to maybe play the land he sees off of Courser as opposed to just stare at it. But now we're back over on Yuuki's turn. And I see that he's got a Siege Rhino in hand. Does he have the untapped mana to play it? No, it doesn't look like it. Temple of Malady is hitting the battlefield here for Yuuki. He's going to resolve this Scry. Does he have another play this turn? He kept that. Yeah, he's got his own Caryatid. So a little bit of a slow start thanks to a few Thoughtseizes from both players, but it looks like things are going to get going here. Is that a Dune Blast in Shaun's hand?
Oh, it looked like a Doom Blast.
It did look like one from here. Is he main decking it?
One Doom Blast. He actually has some another spicy one-off in Nissa Worldwaker as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, interesting choices in his deck. But you do need to have some special cards if you want to win with regular abs and mid-range, because the whip decks, in particular Greenback Constellation and CDC Whip, are definitely a problem.
All right, so here's Siege Rhino from Ichikawa. So the first big threat hits the battlefield here. That's going to let him get a clock going on Shaun McLaren.
Yeah, both of these players have been delayed by their mana bases. So
Right.
it was the double green for Shaun, and then the tapped mana sources for both of these players. Yuki, I think drawing these Siege Rhinos is pretty much perfect. They do get handled by Absent Charm in a way that they don't even can be reanimated by Whip of Erebos. But still, I mean, it's one of the best cards in the matchup.
Yeah, you got to love Yuki's hand right now. He's got Whip and a second Rhino in his hand. Looks like Shaun is starting to find his good top end as well, though, as he just drew. He had Dune Blast last turn. Now he's got Elspeth in his hand as well. Could get interesting if Ichikawa plays the second copy of Siege Rhino and Shaun can follow up with Elspeth to get rid of both of them.
Of which he does have 3, so Yuki does have to be aware that Elspeth is an option at any point.
Shaun McLaren from Canada. He's the national champion from Canada. He will be competing in the World Magic Cup as well. So this is just the start of his work week. And he's got a long way to go in this tournament as well. He needs to win both this match and the next to put himself in a spot to try to make top 4. We've got 2 competitors in the top 4. Yuya Watanabe and Kentaro Yamamoto look like they're already in. So there's 2 slots left. And one of these players is still going to be live for that slot going into the last round. The other one will not.
It's interesting that Whip of Erebos has not really affected this game at all yet. Neither the lifelink nor the reanimation aspect was good enough. So it does look so far that the plan of just ignoring the rip for the early stages of the game worked out for Shaun.
Yuki crossing things off of the list of cards that he knew from Shaun McLaren, whittling it down to, I think, just 1 card left that he actually knows about. The Courser of Crewfix. Yuki's shorthand for it was 2-4. So Yuki slightly ahead on board here with the Siege Rhino. And Shaun looks like he's trying to figure out how he wants to proceed here.
Just from looking at the decks, I would have expected the Abs and Whip to be the control deck, trying to draw out the game. But
Yeah.
the life totals look completely different. 22 to 10.
I suppose when you draw 2 Siege Rhinos, that can happen. And here is Elspeth. Interestingly making tokens here. What do you make of that?
Can the Elspeth survive an attack by the Siege Rhino? I mean, if you have to... Yeah, I don't know. It does seem weird, because you could just get rid of the Rhino and then still have a 1 loyalty Elspeth.
Right, facing down only the Elvish Mystic, but you've also got a blocker. Now,
You can gang block the Siege Rhino.
that's true. It's a
If
little
you're willing,
risky.
but are you willing to put the Courser in front of it, right?
Right.
So that
Kind of
would
an
that'd be
interesting line.
all 4 creatures.
Sure. I mean, it works, right? Barring a trick.
It does work. The other option for Shaun would have been to minus it. Then if his Courser got killed, the Elf actually would finish off Elspeth in that scenario. And here's the Whip of Erebos for Yuki. So Shaun...
That does
like
tell
it's
Shaun
safe.
that there is no trick coming.
That's right. So now it's just up to Shaun. This seems to be the plan, though, here to just block with everything. The question is, how important is Courser of Crewfix at this point?
It's not as important as Elspeth.
Right? It's that simple, right?
Yeah, it's not. Well, it's not even as important as for loyalty of Elspeth. So
Right,
you would
right.
actually get to keep it. Might actually just be the game plan to go for the ultimate
To
here.
go for the ultimate, as Yuki really doesn't have much pressure. Now, he does get his Siege Rhino in the graveyard, which means that the whip can get it back. But Shaun is at 11 life here, and looking to be in pretty good shape as the follow-up play for Yuki is unimpressive as well. Just another elf. Couple of results from our back tables there. Sam Black has won his first game against Owen Turtenwald, and William Huey Jensen has also won his first game against Levy. So Raphael Levy with the aggro deck falling in the first game. That's the one he's supposed to win. So we'll see how it goes after that. I know that the deck that Jensen's on has a pretty decent sideboard plan against it.
So Shaun does have a backup Courser, so also drawing a Sorin. I'm still not sure what to make of this Dune Blast. Is this even the matchup that he wants this in? Is he happy to have it in his hand? Randy, what do you think?
Yes. I mean, he's going to need to clear the board at some point.
So, but only because Elspeth is so dominant, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these grindy mid-range games, right? You get into these gigantic board stalls. I mean, I think that the matchup you have to have it for is Hornet Queen decks.
Yeah.
Speaking of Hornet Queen, Shaun just played Thoughtseize on Yuki, who immediately discarded the last card in his hand, which was Hornet Queen. So
Funny.
we could very likely
Conveniently
see
putting in the
Yeah,
graveyard.
Yeah.
he's almost happy about it.
Yeah, he actually did have 7 mana at this point.
Right, he
though,
could hard
so
cast it.
Hard casting it and then whipping it back is better, but still, it's not that bad.
Yeah, so that could be a huge Doom Blast. If Yuki gets the Hornet Queen back, well, he still has a Siege Rhino to get back, but I don't think that Shaun is, like, even if he's on 9, he isn't dying here.
No. So let's see what Yuki does. He's going to get back Hornet Queen. That way he can get 2 loyalty off of Elspeth and leave behind 4 insect tokens here.
This is where Planeswalkers really protect your life total. If they're threatening enough, you are on 9, virtually on 6, with the threat of the Siege Rhino. I guess with Shaun's Cursor and the Sorin on top,
His life total will keep creeping
he's
upwards.
actually not at 9.
Yeah, it's really interesting too because it looks like that Sorin could have just a massive effect given how many tokens are on the battlefield here. Where Shaun could just play it minus or plus and just attack with everything and gain tons of life here. If he hits an extra land here, an untapped land that is, he could Dune Blast as well. But he's giving up a lot with a Dune Blast, so this gets interesting.
At least the decision what to do with Elspeth is very clear on this board.
Yes. So, again, a lot of Shaun McLaren's top end here. He's got Elspeth, Dune Blast, and now a Sorin in his hand as well. So here's Elspeth making 3 fresh tokens. Looks like they're double checking that the life totals are correct.
I've just been told that maybe Hornet Queen forget lifelink. Yes. Is that the case? Okay, so can we update life totals? Yeah. Yes. So
All right,
plus
so
life-
the deal was that the Hornet Queen had lifelink because of Whip of Erebos, and they forgot to reflect the life totals with the extra 2 life. Okay, so here's Sorin. Sorin pluses, and this is going to be kind of ridiculous.
Shaun doesn't have a whip of Erebos, but Zoran is doing a good impression.
Yeah, close enough, right?
I have the deck list of Ichikawa in front of me, and he has some more top end as well with Wingmate Rock and 2 Soul of Theros that he can.
Wow,
that
he has
draw
2
into.
Soul of Theros
yeah,
in
and
the
those
deck?
those go really well with the Hornet Queens.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Ichikawa should have the deck matchup advantage here. I mean, they're both on essentially Obzon, but Ichikawa's got the better late game.
Yeah, the slightly slower.
Right. You want to be slightly slower than your
Yeah.
opponent. That's been the recipe for success in Magic for as long as there's been Magic.
That's what I thought, especially the Whip of Erebos giving you such, well, you basically don't
Right.
die.
Right.
And you get all the value you want.
Right. And Shaun's deck has a hard time applying enough pressure to punish you for playing a card like Whip.
But I mean,
In the
sometimes
meantime-
you have Elspeth and Sorin, and
He's attacking for 12.
these
So.
good cards are good cards.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, McLaren has his one of Dune Blast too if things get out of control. I mean, Dune Blast Elspeth is obviously bad synergy, but I think McLaren's still happy to have that as kind of it's evolved into the backup plan this game. It's still a nice backup plan to have.
And Shaun has struck me as a really thoughtful deck builder. So every slot in his deck is just a lot of thought put into it. So he really knows that he wants like 3 Elspeth, the 1 Nissa, and the Doom Blast is there for exactly these moments where you somehow have to punch through. And I guess if you get to leave the cursor in play and activate both Planeswalkers after Doom Blast, that does look quite impressive.
Okay, so a little bit of trading, a little bit of blocking with the carry added, and a whole lot of life gain here for McLaren. And
Back table update, by the way. Patrick Chapen has now managed to kill not 1 but 2 different Ashioks
Ooh.
Shenhar had been using.
Now remember that all those tokens and the Courser and even the carry added still get the bonus from Sorin, even on Yuki's turn. And it looks like Siege Rhino coming back. Okay. Make a Siege Rhino. That's coming back from the Whip of Erebos. So there's the 3 life point from you, 3 life points to me. But Shaun McLaren's back up to 22 after gaining 12 last turn.
He was on 9, so there was just he overtook Yuki in life pool. Well, now not anymore, but still that was quite impressive.
Yeah.
And the 4 flyers that Yuki has, they aren't threatening either Planeswalker. And then now that Yuki's graveyard is not really threatening anymore, with the whip, you can just Doom Blast. And what is Yuki going to do with the 2-0 Planeswalker disadvantage?
Another update from that back table. After the Ashiok went away, Patrick got to start attacking Shahar, and Patrick Chapen takes game 1.
We're going to jump over to that match in just a little bit here, but we've got a little bit of a board state on our hands here, gentlemen. Imagine popping in on this one.
I always find it fascinating, like the math on attacking a player with blockers is already tough, but when you add 1 Planeswalker and then another one,
Yes.
the options just increase by so much. But I mean, Shaun has shown us that he's willing to basically sacrifice Cursor of Prefix to prevent his Planeswalker from dying.
So I'm assuming these are all going at Elspeth.
Now, it looks to me like it's Rhino token at Elspeth. The other 2 tokens look like they might be at Sorin.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
That's what he split them up? Okay.
So he knows that the hornets, the insects, are going to, get through.
Right.
We see, I believe, exactly the same block.
Yeah, it's funny.
Shaun
Killed the
did-
Siege Rhino
did
the
between-
first time around.
It's actually the same Siege Rhino.
It is. It's a new Courser, though. It's the same, two of the same
Oh
token
no,
now.
look. It's still
it's
Caryatid.
Oh wow, he didn't put the Courser in front. He just wanted to soak up the trample damage and defend Elspeth.
That's right.
Doesn't need to kill
yeah.
the Rhino, right? It's
No,
going to get
but-
removed anyway due to the whip effect.
Right.
But-
He also gains an extra life. That's pretty nice.
Oh, that's because of Soren's
Soren's ability, right?
Funny.
Yeah. So it looks. Well, Elspeth has fallen down to 1 here.
Oh, all the insects were at Elspeth. I
So
guess.
yeah, they did all go to Elspeth.
He just confused us with the placement.
Yep.
Yeah.
So is it Dune Blast time?
It looks to me like Shaun wants to Dune Blast because he basically gave away a soldier for free. He did have enough toughness to just block with Caryatid and a soldier.
Sure.
He did get, or 2 soldiers, that is. He did gain some life, but
Yeah, but I mean, if he doesn't Dune Blast, then Elspeth's going to die. If he does Dune Blast, Elspeth gets to hang out.
That's
and then
right.
look at Yuki's future graveyard. It's 3 1/1 elves,
Yeah.
a Caryatid and a Cursor. Like, you can whip back your Cursor for a turn.
Have fun.
That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, Sean's going to be left with 3 soldiers after the melee anyway. He's also plus Soren once again here, so he's actually attacking for a ton of damage here. 13.
But
All with
Yuki has
lifelink.
to know what's up. Yuki has to know that Dune Blast is a very real possibility here.
Right.
It's kind of tough to play around 1-off.
Yeah,
so.
it's a one-of. He doesn't know what's up, but he might be worried.
Yeah, I don't believe we had any thought seizes after
No.
the first one we see there. So no Gitaxian probes.
No, and I don't think it was revealed to a Courser either, so. Okay, block. So 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. Sean gains 13.
Yeah, 13 at the game. Hold it. My game, 1 game. 33 damage.
We might just be seeing Sorin ultimate instead of Elspeth. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad activation.
It's not too bad. I mean, it does feel like if Yuki, lands a Hornet Queen or something, it puts a pretty big crimp in that plan.
Of course, it's not what you want to be doing, and as long as you have Elspeth and the +1/+0 from Zorin going, that's just what you want.
I think he's just. I mean, right now he's gonna plus Elspeth, and he's gonna put 6 more power on the battlefield thanks to Soren. And Yuki, like you said earlier, Zeman, nothing much in the yard to work with here either.
That's why I'm not sure if he can actually afford to get back the Siege Rhino at the time that he did it. It felt to me like you have to kind of have it as a threat to get it back at exactly the right moment. And this made it a bit easier for Shaun. Okay, now it's time.
What is Soren's ultimate again?
Yeah, he's gonna have to start worrying about Elspeth's
Well, usually you
ultimate.
can just shortcut to, I don't want my opponent's Planeswalkers, ultimately.
That is a handy shortcut indeed. So Ichikawa very much up against it here, as Shaun McLaren's at 40 life now with a far superior board state, and he's in a great spot.
Yeah, Ichikawa did draw a Hero's Downfall, so he can at least kill one of the Planeswalkers.
Yeah, that's why he checked.
Yeah.
I think he really wanted to know
So
what
I
was
wanted to
going
kill
on.
Elspeth, but what does this Soren do to me if I leave it around? And he goes for the Soren.
Interesting. Elspeth is a lot better on her own.
Yeah, Elspeth is threatening to win on her own.
Right.
Soren
Soren
was
takes a
not
while.
necessarily doing that.
Okay.
Also, we talked about the fact that the ultimate is maybe not as threatening because sacrificing a creature is, well, it's doable for the whip deck. It's not life-threatening.
Right. There's some decks that can't beat it. This isn't
Exactly.
one of them.
So, one thing I find interesting is that Shaun decided to Thoughtseize the Cursor of Proofings, the very first thing in the match.
Yeah.
And look how this has stifled Yuki's mana development.
No kidding. It's really helped out. He had 2
Great point.
Abzan Charbs in his hand, could not deal with the Courser, and
Yeah.
just said, I don't want you to have that. It's
And
really
we-
worked out well for Shaun.
I think that just shows us that that it's easy to overlook the advantage that a cursor generates. That
Yeah.
like all these extra cards are just exactly that for Shaun McLaren.
Yeah. All right, in comes the team. And Shaun's going to make quick work of Yuuki if he can't find something big here. All right, well, we're going to take a break from this match, and we're going to go back over, and we're going to watch Patrick Chapen versus Shahar Shenhar on one of our side tables here. Right now, Patrick Chapen is up a game in the match, and he is looking, he's sitting at 9-3.
Yeah, Chapen is trying to clinch top 4.
Right.
He's probably can back in on tiebreakers, but he clinches with a win. Shahar, meanwhile, it needs to win. If he wins this match, he may also be able to back in on tiebreakers. Like if Shahar wins, then our most likely top 4 is the 2 Japanese players that drew and the 2 of these guys. If Shahar loses, though, then we're definitely going to be able to get somebody in on 9 and 5.
Okay, and that would put Chapen in as well.
Chapen just needs 1 point, right?
Chapen needs a point. Shahar needs 4 points.
So Chapen
or
is,
maybe 3 is good enough.
Chapen is in exactly the same position as the 2 Japanese players that drew,
Right.
except that he's paired down.
Yeah, it's funny. After the game, Chapen said to Shahar, you know, having seen your entire, I'm glad I saw your entire deck list because now I realize quite how lucky I got to win game 1. This should not be a great matchup for the Abzan mid-range. I mean, Ashiok was just failing to find creatures for Shahar Shenhar. You know, his Sidisi Whip deck should have the better sort of mid to late game of these 2 decks. It's not like Patrick can beat him up early. It just didn't work out.
This is something that we've seen during the whole standard. There's one deck that looks to be mid-rangey, and then there's the other one that looks to be mid-range plus X, mid-range plus Whip, or mid-range plus Elspeth. And somehow, then the mid-range deck, without the heavy hitters, without the late-game trump, somehow still tries to play this slow game. And we saw Shaun McLaren just use his card so effectively that the Whip of Erebus was basically just a sideline.
Yeah, it feels like
card.
those late-game trumps aren't true trumps.
At
They're
this
like,
level
you know,
of play.
Right, at this level of play, they're, you know, plus 10% chance of winning or something, but... sounds like McLaren did officially win that game against
McLaren
Ichikawa.
did finish that game, so he's up a game in his match.
Yeah, that was beautifully played from the beginning, from the very first Thoughtseize.
Oh, here's an interesting one now. So not a lot going on this board, as you can see. Shahar did just draw a copy of Ashiok Nightmare Weaver here, though. Playing Ashiok into a completely empty board has to be tempting. What else what are those other options? It's like nothing.
Other options? There's just play Ashiok into an empty board.
Yeah, but into Hero's Downfall mana as well.
Ooh, got one too. Siege Rhino.
Patrick does have black colorless, so...
Downfall, I'm assuming we
And
didn't
had a
get a look
downfall.
at it, but it had to be Downfall. All right, so Hero's Downfall takes down Ashiok. That's the second one of those in the bin there for Shahar Shenhar. So just a 1-for-1 trade, ultimately. And the only board state to speak of is just a
still no
Satyr
creatures for
Wayfinder.
Patrick.
Yeah. So here's a Thoughtseize now for Chapen. Remember, Chapen's up a game here, too. He's looking to close out right now, put himself in the top 4 of the World Championship, and keep his hopes alive. We saw after he won the Pro Tour, you know, he said, I'm looking ahead. That's where I'm looking. And he is very close to being one step closer to that goal.
I remember when these 2 played in Modern, Patrick was keen to board into a somewhat controlling deck, even though that wasn't really what his deck was trying to do. And it looks like it's almost the same plan here, with him only casting reactive spells up to this point. Now, if you're seeing Counter Magic, 3 removal spells, and Soul of Innistrad, I don't know if you're happy about grinding somebody out.
Right. Yeah, that Soul of Innistrad makes that quite difficult.
Yeah, this is the same deck that we saw Josh Layton pilot against Stanislav Sivka. Sivka with the blue-black control, the allegedly best slow deck in the format, and Raptor just ran him out of stuff.
I left watching that match like an hour after it started, and I thought, well, at this point, Sivka has to win,
Yes,
right?
of course. That's what's supposed to happen. No.
And it just didn't. So
No. I mean, the Souls of Innistrad were, I think, the most effective card.
They were the standout.
Yeah.
Another example of the blue-black control deck with the Perilous Vault somehow getting beaten, and there was this key Sultai Charm as well.
Yep.
that
Yes.
Delayed the game. Delayed the Wrath effect.
All right, here's Patrick Chapen playing Abzan Charm to draw 2 cards. I've seen him do that consistently. He loves using that ability the most. I think that is in line with what you guys are saying about him taking a more controlling route with his deck post-sideboard here.
I'm not sure. I'm with Simon. I'm not sure he has the ammunition
This
to
deck
fight the
doesn't-
long game in this matchup.
Doesn't pivot that well into the deck he really wants it to be.
Not against something with as much late game as Sidisi.
Look at this. Soul of Innistrad is now joined by Hornet Queen.
Wow.
And
But Shahar's just doing nothing because he doesn't have any other threats
Yeah,
or
but
spells.
He stopped playing lands.
this is
Right.
the thing that allows Patrick to play Absent Charms as if it was Esper Charm and he was playing Cruel Control all over again.
Way back in the day.
Yeah, 3 mana, draw 2. I think that sounds familiar.
It does. It does indeed.
But this shows me over and over how important it is to not only know your deck inside out, but to really prepare for each individual matchup. Because if you're wrong about how long you want the game to go, then you just lose the game.
Speaking of
Yeah.
losing the game, Shahar is going to be way up against it now as Chapen has right on time Elspeth, though Hero's Downfall is going to take down that Planeswalker. But not before she gets to make 3 tokens left over. So Shahar really needs to start finding lands. He did. He found a 5th land, and he does nothing.
The other table, by the way, sounds like William Jensen has finished off Raphael Levy. So Jensen, currently in 6th place, wins, really hoping that a win next round will be good enough to get him into the top 4.
He's at 7-5 coming into the round, so now he's 8-5.
Yeah, and he was pared down, right? So
Yeah, he was pared down.
And Ralph Levy didn't have the tiebreakers anyway to really have a shot. So
Can't Jensen's actually rooting for McLaren because he's got better tiebreakers than McLaren, worse tiebreakers than Ichikawa. Also, all those guys are rooting for Patrick. They want Patrick to knock Shahar down into the
It is
scrum.
funny how the better somebody does, the more you want him to win even more.
Yep.
But the closer somebody is to the field, the more you don't want him to win.
Okay, and here's Siege Rhino follow-up now for Chapin. The pressure keeps coming here. Can Shahar Shenhar find the lands he needs to get out of this mess? So he's been able to keep the pressure off with Hero's Downfall, now a Murderous Cut to take down the Rhino. He would love to have an untapped land here to be able to play a Soul of Innistrad, which would shore up this ground game pretty nicely for him, assuming it survived. Shahar
Instead, he
has
threw
found
Dig Through Time.
Dig Through Time.
Average casting costs 6.
Nah.
Well, dig, not really. So
Yeah, and I think that, he's going to fire off Dig right here. This is going to allow him to try to find a land.
yeah, you don't want to dig for lands, but I guess
Kind of has to.
he doesn't have a choice.
He's left Sidisi in his graveyard. He does have 3 mana left over, so if he does find the land, which he almost assuredly will, he'll have 4 mana to work with. You know, he could find something like Sidisi land, maybe another removal spell in a land.
I see Thoughtseize, a bunch of land, a Courser.
At this point, I'm actually just scared for his life total.
Yeah, he tapped 2 pain
Yes.
lands to cast this dig.
There, if you just have Soul of Innistrads to win the late game, but your opponent is attacking you for lethal.
Looks like he's going to take land Courser.
Even just the soldiers, in conjunction with the pain you take from your own lands.
He's declining a whip and a Hero's Downfall.
Wow.
Because he needs land Courser. Like, that's what he wants to play this turn.
All right, another update from our back tables. Owen Turtenwald and Sam Black are now tied at 1 game apiece. Both of those players also on 7-5 coming into the
Yep.
round. There's quite a scrum at the middle, that happens in tournaments like this with a smaller field.
Yeah, those guys on toward the bottom of the tiebreakers. But, yeah, hoping win-win is good enough.
So much on the line here for these players, especially the 2 in our feature match here, Shahar Shenhar and Patrick Chapen. Chapen with a win will put himself into the top 4 of the event and get 1 step closer to his goal of becoming the world champion. Shahar Shenhar looking to run it back. He is our world champion.
That was a
He
crucial
wants
reveal.
to stay that way.
Off of Cursor.
That it
Getting the
wasn't-
land there.
Did it hit a land? Okay.
Yeah, he had a land in his hand that he kept with the dig, but still.
But yeah, but that's
Still
there
very
was just like 1 more land so that you can actually curve into Hornet Queen.
Wow, the land in his hand is also a dry land. It comes into play tapped.
All right. So it looks like he shored up the ground game against the soldiers, at least. Shahar Shenhar at 10 life now. So what are the cards that he's worried about? Zeman going into the future, let's say he untaps and plays the Hornet Queen, what kind of cards does he not want to see from Chapen?
The Hornet Queen is the much better card, but as you just said, he doesn't have the untapped source. So if he just is able to cast Soul of Innistrad, then there's going to be other end waiting for him. And even Abzan Charm. You said how much Patrick likes drawing 2 cards, but I think exiling a Soul of Innistrad is right up his alley as well.
Sure.
I wouldn't mind.
Interesting from
Patrick's
Chapen, we
Cries
see
at the
he's
top.
got Liliana Vess in his hand, playing that against the Whip deck. Tempting fate. Maybe he just uses it to search up the answers he needs to deal with what's on the board, but you got to be careful letting the Whip deck discard at will.
So somehow he's turned this control draw into
An
somewhat
egg.
of a let me attack for 3 each turn.
He
draw.
is. He's now going to use
Crazy.
Utter End to take out the Courser of Crewfix and enable another
He isn't
attack
gonna
phase.
play a removal spell on Seder Wayfinder.
Is he really going to do it? Look at, that's exactly what Shahar's thinking, like, really?
I think this is Patrick channeling his early sly roots. Clear the blocker, attack with Iron Claw Orc. Clear the blocker, attack with Iron Claw Orc.
Yeah,
that was his first Pro Tour circa, like 1997.
I remember other Pro Tours, and there was no attacking with 1-drops.
Well, Patrick's kind of run the gamut in his career. If he started there, he moved into control, and now, you know,
Oh yeah,
really
he played
he's
Ball
found a
Lightning in
lot
his
of-
first Pro Tour. He
Yeah.
started out with the
But
mono red.
he's really, though, found success at mid-range now.
Yeah.
You know, his recent successes have really come in much more middle ground decks.
I heard him describe his recent strategies as mono mid-range.
Yeah.
which shows that he really is now a well-rounded player. So not trying to build the most fancy control deck, but rather trying to really break formats. I mean, that's exactly what you need to do at this kind of tournament.
Okay, so Shahar Shenhar, thanks to that enters the battlefield tapped Opulent Palace, is going to have to settle for a Sylvan Caryatid and to pass the turn. Now, he does have Murderous Cut in his hand, and he can cast it. Those 3 sideways cards that his hands are on right now are his graveyard. The rest are his exiled zone.
It's interesting that he chose Caryatid plus Murderous Cut over Soul of Innistrad.
He probably had the read that Patrick was just waiting to kill it.
Yeah, I don't think Patrick Utter ends a Courser if he doesn't have another one.
Patrick also passed with 3 mana up, and he had Abzan Charm and Anafenza, so he declined to cast Anafenza.
In order to leave up the charm.
Yeah, which I found interesting because I thought that if you just untap, you could do the same. But maybe he just knows that the Murderous Cut is going to take care of it anyway, so he really only wants to expose cards he wants Shahar to kill.
All right, Read the Bones here for Chapen, a card that he is quite fond of, has played at multiple Pro Tours.
I'm still wondering what his master plan is
his whole game-
regarding Liliana Vaz. And well, actually, the whole game plan.
He's only drawn 1 creature the entire game. It's that 1 Siege Rhino.
This looks to me like there's been some aggressive sideboarding.
Yeah.
And I think that's not the first time that Patrick has modified his deck to really beat the person sitting across from him, but
Wow.
winning the matchup.
Came up with a Thoughtseize off that Read the Bones.
He did indeed, and another card that we didn't see yet, but so it's double Soul of Innistrad, Murderous Cut, and then that Hornet Queen, which was kind of plan A for Shahar Shenhar. He was looking to slam that next turn and try to take over the game from there.
The fact that Patrick finds a Thoughtseize before Shahar finds an untapped 7th land is huge, especially because CDC Whip is usually not a deck that's struggling with its land drops.
Right.
Cursor of Crewfix, Seder Wayfinder. Shahar had to dig through time for lands. I mean, that's how bad it was.
Right. Desperate axe there from Shahar. He did find the land, but it wasn't the one he needed. So the question is, so for now, if Hornet Queen goes to the graveyard, fair. That's fine. It'll stay there for a while. But there's always the threat of a whip coming off the top for Shahar Shenhar. And then even further down the line, an activation from Soul of Innistrad could also just return it back to his hand. So I'm assuming that was a Hornet Queen, though. It seemed like the only reasonable target, and that's what it was.
Yeah. Patrick can't be hoping. He isn't hoping to run Shahar out of cards because at some point the engine will start running.
Yeah, the Soul of Innistrad engine will be running. Is this going to be Liliana Vess here? And is he going to search up a card himself? That's my question.
Yeah, that's a Vampiric Tutor.
All right. So what he gets to do is search his library, put the card on top. It will
What do you get?
take his next draw
Is it
step.
Elspeth?
Don't know. I mean, he seems to have morphed his deck into kind of a
Siege
Planeswalker
Rhino?
control type.
I think
scenario?
Siege Rhino is a good guess.
It's got to be a threat.
I'm
right?
not claiming that I know what's going on in Patrick Chapen's mind. I know he has it figured out, but
Siege Rhino looks like the card
I
he
think
took.
Siege Rhino and Elspeth are good choices.
I love how important sideboarding is in Standard right now. I actually think one of the coolest things going on. One of the reasons this Standard is getting so much praise as just a great format. You know, you have 75 card decks nowadays. It's not 60 with some hosers in the sideboard.
Yeah,
it's
just color
75
hoses.
card decks. You can modify. Basically, if you can correctly identify what your role should be in every match, you just get a huge edge by being able to customize your deck for game 2 and 3.
So Shahar just drew Disdainful Stroke.
Still doesn't have, well,
Pat's got a charm, doesn't he?
He's left the mana up for it.
Yeah, but it's Abzan Charm, not Utter End, that's going to deal with the soul.
That's fine, but whatever it was that Patrick put on top of his library surely cost 4 mana.
Fair
It looks
enough.
like
that
it
was,
You're right.
was a Siege Rhino.
It was the
now,
Rhino.
The next step is, how does Patrick play this?
Yeah,
because
right.
he can get rid of the soul rather easily. And then the question is, does he just expose one of his cards to a counterspell? Maybe.
He kind of has to. Remember, he saw he
maybe
saw
even-
Shahar's hand
I mean,
last
maybe
clear
even
the soul
force
out of the way, attack with 2 tokens, right? He's got a 7-turn clock in play.
Well, not
and then-
even that, because the 2 rhinos, right? I mean, remember, Liliana's still sitting there.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
It looks like he's playing. Is that an Anafenza?
It is. He's playing on Offenza.
Because this is really interesting. If he gets rid of the soul and attacks, he drops Shahar to 6.
Yep.
He's got a rhino, and he can go dig up another rhino with his Liliana, and that could be it, where he doesn't even need to attack again.
An Offender is actually the card that I was expecting the least out of his hand.
Which?
The
Anafenza.
Anafenza. Because the Absent Charm exiles the soul, so the Anafenza, playing the Anafenza there, it doesn't strike me as the card that you want to play. Now, if Patrick knows that he's playing around Disdainful Stroke this turn,
Yeah.
I think that's a fine line, but I would have expected it at least after combat, maybe. All
Okay,
right.
so he gets in, and Shahar Shenhar does fall down to 6, so he's in double rhino range here.
And here's Liliana.
And here's Liliana ticking down. Let's see what he finds. Try to get a view of it here.
Well, if you get
There
the
it
first
is.
Rhino, then you also get the second one.
Yeah.
All right, so here it is. He's got the win in his hand, assuming that Shahar's life total doesn't change, and assuming he can resolve both, which...
Well, he can't resolve both.
Right, we know that. So
But he only needs to resolve one, given
from
the
his
current board.
perspective, though... Right, that's the other thing, is that now on offense, gets to start battling here, making things tough.
Murderous Cut takes care of Anafenza.
Okay, so Murderous Cut deals with that particular threat.
And Patrick knew about the Murderous Cut.
That's right.
That was still known to him. I'm wondering if Absent Charm would have been another alternative to get here, just to deal some extra damage, without really exposing yourself to Disdainful Stroke. But I mean, if you're just
The Murderous Cut, I think, takes that.
yeah, if you're
makes
just
that line a little
if you're
sketchy.
just chaining Siege Rhinos, I think there is not much that Shahar can do except for maybe getting a Whip of Erebos online.
Yeah, he needs to find a whip pretty quickly. You could see him kind of sweating that draw step. Remember, he's down a game. Shahar needs to win this and the next one to keep his hopes alive here.
I wanted to ask you what you thought of the Disdainful Strokes in Shahar's deck. They have been looking very good for him.
In the feature maps, when I was in there, they looked fantastic for him.
Yeah, Liliana ticks up. Shahar's got one card. Patrick doesn't know what it is. He's looking at those lethal Rhino for lethal, hoping it's not Disdainful Stroke, but we'll find out.
Right, because Patrick can play both of them this turn here.
Right. Now, if you're Shahar, you have to just counter this, right? Do you hold on to it?
I mean,
guess
the first one doesn't kill you.
The first one doesn't kill you. It's absolutely true. But
Yeah, I think
I
you
think
could
it makes
too.
sense.
Now,
And now
Shahar's-
he's hellbent.
He's hellbent, and he doesn't have any creatures in his yard, right? So that soul isn't doing a ton here, and it's also
Utter
been
End.
exiled by Utter End. And Patrick Chapen battles for 2. He set up the win next turn if Shahar draws nothing. And Shahar drew
draws
nothing, so Chapen is poised here. He's going to play it all, and Chapen's just going to show him the Siege Rhino
Wow.
because he knows he has it. And Chapen, Patrick Chapen has now put himself
Officially, finally.
into the top 4.
And he wins the best 2 out of 3 matches set against Shahar. They played 3 times.
And we have to check, but I think he often won after boarding. Like, I know that
Was that brilliant sideboarding, though, or was that Shahar stumbling on mana?
both. I think it was both.
Both? Okay. I mean, Shahar's mana was relevant part of the story.
Yes, definitely.
It was indeed.
It did seem like this game was a game that Patrick still had a lot of cards to work with.
Fair.
So he was far ahead.
So we've got one more match going in the feature match area. Sam Black has defeated Owen Turtenwald to pick up the win on our other table. But here we are on our main feature match table once again with Shaun McLaren versus Yuuki Ichikawa. McLaren won the first game. A seemingly well-played game where he kind of crafted it out for the long term and had a much superior late game. Also marginalizing the Whip of Erebos of his opponent. Now this is a little bit different though. We've got Thoughtseize on the stack, and it looks like Yuki's only 2 cards are a Nissa and a Siege Rhino. And his board state, well, he's got a 4/4 trampoline land, it appears.
It's interesting that Shaun McLaren, who has the 1 Nissa in his main deck, is also playing 2 in his sideboard. But Yuuki is 1-upping him with 4 Nissa Worldwaker in his sideboard.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so it looks actually like they've both got 4/4 trampoline lands.
Exactly.
In fact, they're both Llanowar Waste even. Okay, Courser. It's going to reveal Windswept Heath. That's going to enter the battlefield. See what he's got on top. He's going to get a shuffle effect if he'd like it. Let's see what he... Well, Siege Rhino. That'll be a nice match for the other one.
Pretty big match outside the feature match area, by the way. Number 2 versus number 3 in the world. Reed Duke defeats Jeremy Dizani.
Ooh.
To wrestle a pro point.
Yeah, wrestled a pro point. He could matter in Player of the Year if they run it back, right? Reed's actually recovered nicely today. He's up to 6-7 after having just a miserable day 1.
Yeah. Okay, pass the turn back to Ichikawa. Both of these players are on 7-5 coming into the round. The winner of this match gets to play again and has to win that, and then has to hope that they're the one who fills the last seat in the top
and
4.
the good news for these guys is that Shahar lost. That means we are going to have a player get in at 27.
Okay.
We've now got 2 28s and a 30 have clinched. There's 1 spot left. It will be a 27-pointer, and there'll be, I think, 4 guys playing to be the 2 27-pointers, something like that next round.
The draw by Yamamoto and Watanabe also means that Chapen is now once again at the top of the standings.
Oh,
Yes.
good point. Yeah, he's in position to choose play draw all the way through Sunday.
So there's still a round to go, but depending on how things are looking, we might see a match that that decides who gets to play first.
Now, can it be that Chapin plays the person? Because I'm pretty sure Chapin's playing. Like, I talked to him earlier, and he told me, he's like, look, I need every pro point I can get. He doesn't get out to as many GPs as he used to. And he's like, I'm trying to make platinum. I can't give up a pro point. Could be interesting there to see if Chapin plays Dream Killer.
So this game is going to be another example where we might see that cursor advantage is really what matters. It's if all these decks have 10 heavy hitters, then somehow it all cancels out. But the early cursor of Kruvix might give you 5 or 6 extra cards, and the mana to utilize the expensive cards.
And right now, Shaun McLaren is the one with the Courser.
It's basically how he won the first game.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's going to be true every time, and it's really
Heroes downfall your land.
Yeah.
Love it.
get rid of that land. It's really tough to say because these games are quite volatile. You see one player being controlled, then the other trying to be the aggressor, but then a single card can already change that. Let's just I don't think that Yuki has Elspeth, but if he had and he played an Elspeth and suddenly got on the board with that, then Shaun would be in this position. Can I really attack my opponent's life total anymore? No, I can't. I have to now play on this other axis again. And then I think if we get into these kind of back and forth, the player with active cursor, with the active cursor, is just the favorite.
Incrementally getting ahead and ahead and ahead and ahead until they're so far ahead. Now,
Utter End targeted the courser.
Utter End took out the courser of Crewfix and left the 4/4 trampoline land behind. Yuuki.
On such a low life total too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just,
I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, Yuuki does have Nissa in his hand, so I think he figures he's going to be able to, with a land drop, I suppose, play and then make one of his lands into a 4/4 that can eventually
that
trade.
block,
Soaked up 1 damage.
1 damage.
And there's Siege Rhino knocking Ichikawa further
Shaun
down,
McLaren.
and he's got to extend the hand. Shaun McLaren wins 2-0 over Yuuki Ichikawa, and Shaun McLaren is still live. Yuuki not going to be in the top 4 this year, but what do you got there, Randy?
4 guys for 1 spot.
4 for 1.
4 guys for 1 spot. That's what we're going to have. That's how it's going to shake out going into the last round.
I love that. So a quick update. We've got Yamamoto, Watanabe, and Chapen.
Yep. In.
Those guys are in, and we've got 1 more slot in our top 4. Remember, in the World Championship, we only cut to 4. We don't cut to top 8. It's 4. And then we got to wait 4 or 5 days until Sunday, and that's when it actually gets played out. But we've got 1 more slot to give away. So who's in contention for that?
Shahar Shenhar.
Okay.
William Jensen. Shaun McLaren. And did you say Sam beat Owen?
Sam beat Owen.
And Sam Black.
Okay. Wow.
4 guys for 1 slot. And that, by the way, was the current tiebreaker order.
That was the current tiebreaker order.
Yeah, so Shahar has pole position, I guess, with Jensen in second. But, I mean, tiebreakers could move, and, I mean, Shahar can lose. Billy can lose.
Right. And, of course, we have to see how the matchups go for the final round.
Does one of these losses come at the hand of Patrick Chapen or one of the Japanese players who's in? Because that's 3, right? So the pairings have to...
The pairings, I mean, yeah.
It gets a little crazy with the pairings in a tournament like
the way
this.
the pairings will work is first you take the number 1 guy, Patrick Chapen, and find him opponent. And what the pairing algorithm will do is it'll just go down the standings, finding somebody that Patrick has not played in Standard. I know he's played Yamamoto. I know we just watched him play Shenhar. If he play Watanabe in the other match, so I think Patrick actually gets one of the 4 guys who are in the scrum. If those are his 3 opponents so far, then he would go down.
Wow.
I don't remember all the pairings exactly, but that's how the algorithm works. Yeah. Then it'll go find Yamamoto an opponent. Then it'll go find Watanabe an opponent. And essentially it goes from the top and just looks down until it finds somebody that they can legally play.
So they haven't played in this format yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, somebody who is playing for top 4 will be playing somebody who is in the top 4, which is not a good feeling for one of the 4.
Wow.
Yeah, it basically has to work that way.
Wow, that gets super interesting because we've got a situation here where some people are going to be playing other people who want to get in, and some people are going to be playing who are already in, and that's going to be something to watch. We've got 1 more round of action here.
Yeah, I suspect all those matches will just get played because of the pro points that are on the line.
Yeah, that's the other thing we have to remember here is that there are, and also money finishes count here too.
Well, if
the top 4
guys,
the top 4 guys there's no money on the line.
I think the
what's on the line
play draw is quite relevant.
Play draw is quite relevant, and the pro point is quite relevant.
So there's 2 big reasons, and I think that even playing might even be relevant if you want somebody else to make top 4. Right. So there's very little reason not to play.
There's.
All right, well, why don't we send it over to Rich Hagen? He's sitting at the news desk right now. When we come back here to the booth in just a little while, we're going to have the last round of Swiss here from the World Championship.
Well, I can tell you that if either of the last 2 games of this round go to Game 3, you'll see those in the feature match area. We're currently 2 games in Game 2. The rule is a Pro Tour, a World Championship, a Grand Prix. We do not move a game in the middle of the game. Not fair to the players, just not right. So we hope you bear with us on that, but we will see Game 3 if either of those last 2 matches go the distance. So some matches that are coming in. Why don't we take a look at our master scoreboard for you here at the World Championship, the penultimate round coming towards its conclusion. The lighter names have their round 13 results in. The darker names still waiting to happen. As you can see, there's plenty of results to come in, although you, of course, know some of those results, not least that Patrick Chapen defeated Shahar Shenhar, and that means that Patrick Chapen is definitely in alongside Yuya Watanabe and Kentaro Yamamoto. William Jensen currently at 8 and 5, Josh Utter-Layton at 7 and 6. Then you've got the other 7 and 5s battling to stay in contention, Ichikawa, McLaren, Black and Turtenwald. You've just seen McLaren's match finish there. That's where we are in terms of the standings. We are very much hoping in the next few minutes to bring Yuya Watanabe to the desk. I'm going to be honest, his English is not fabulous, but it is infinitely more fabulous than my Japanese. Thankfully, we have a Japanese translator here in the building, so we're hoping to get them beside me here in the next few minutes, because we know so many of you were getting avalanche with requests. Please get us some Yuya Watanabe, because he's had an incredible run. 0-2, 1-3, 9-3, handshake, great job. But right now, why don't we hand it over to Brian David Marshall, because he is with the third member of the top 4. It was the overnight leader and the man who is certainly coming back on Sunday, Patrick Chapen.
Hi, everybody. Brian David Marshall here with Patrick Chapen. Patrick, congratulations. You're 2/3 of the way towards your goal.
Yeah, 14 rounds down, 2 to go.
And so you came in undefeated overnight. You go into your Khans of Tarkir draft, and it looked like you were an aggro deck. We get into hostilities. We get Pearl Lake Ancient. Tell us what happened in that draft along the way.
I started out trying to draft Jeskai, but Raptor to my right was cutting me, and I ended up with I was a bad blue-red splash-white aggro deck. Saw the end hostilities and thought that I would have better chances of being. I was more likely to beat somebody for sure with if I picked the end hostilities and tried to be a mediocre control deck than if I just played a blue-red bad aggro deck. Like if I played a blue-red bad aggro deck, I thought that there was a reasonable probability. Like that's the highest probability scenario that I could actually end up 0-3, which to me was the nightmare scenario because
Right.
you know.
So at that point, you're really just looking to you need a minimum amount of wins over the course of this day to lock up that top 4 berth, and you're just like, well, I
mean, obviously I would like as many as I can, but it's a incredibly tough pod, and my draft at that point was already half a train wreck. So I thought that it was time for damage control. You know?
Sure. Now a lot of people at home, see 2 Mantis Riders. They're not thinking
those two cards were
things
great.
are going badly for you.
Those 2 cards were fantastic, no question.
But the problem was maybe 2 drops and some of the removal spells that you want in that deck.
Yeah, part of it was the lack of removal spells, but that's in large part just the tricks. And it's very possible that I made the wrong call. This format is extremely tough, and honestly, out of the 24 people here, I feel like I'm in the bottom half for this draft format, and I've gave it everything I could, but
Sure.
it's very tough, and I still don't know which. There's many decisions that I
Sure.
could have made a different way.
Sure. Fortunately, the back half of this event is a format that you feel very confident in, which has been standard. So tell us a little bit about why Siege Rhino is so good.
Siege Rhino, I think Willie Edel actually nailed it. That Siege Rhino is. It's the new Bloodbraid Elf. It's Bloodbraid Rhino. It's like a Bloodbraid Elf that always drains them for 3, which is like often better than a Bolt anyway.
Right.
But then instead of a 3/2 haste, you get a 4/5 Trampler.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible, and I think that Siege Rhino is the best card in Standard.
So tell us a little bit about your deck and how you arrived at it, who you worked with to come up with the Abzan deck that you're playing this weekend.
So I played Abzan.
And this weekend now.
Yep. I played Abzan at both the Pro Tour and Grand Prix LA and did well in both of them. At the Pro Tour, had just been testing with the Pantheon, and the deck I arrived at was pretty good, but Ari Lax and his team, Ari Lax who won the tournament, I liked their version even better, and I kind of ported my mana base into their deck and then added a bunch of Read the Bones and called it a day. And then for the Grand Prix, it worked well. And for this event, I tested with Paul Rietzel as far as competitors, and then we also collaborated with Matt Sperling, Kai Bodie, and Michael Jacob, and Ali Rush. And we didn't even spend that much time on Standard because there's 4 formats to prepare for, and it was one that we were already confident in, already had a good tune list. Fortunately, Paul had some last-minute sideboard swaps that he suggested based on his read of the metagame. He thought that whip decks were going to be big, and he nailed it. You know, like it looks like, I mean, I don't know for sure, but something around almost half the field is playing whip decks. And so adding several Anafenzas, you know, a couple of Anafenzas was a very fortunate use of sideboard slots.
That card, as someone who's played Sidician Commander, I can tell you that facing off against the Anafenza Commander deck is very unpleasant. So I imagine it's even better in Standard. And tell me, what are any other big changes for this event besides, you know, sideboard? Anything in the main deck?
So we added Bramaz, King of Oreskes, which a lot of other people are doing again. The way the format has kind of shifted, I think Bramaz is good again. And we had to change the mana base around a little bit to support the Bramazes. Sure. But mainly, yeah, I guess basically, I mean, I still play Read the Bones, and not everybody else plays the Read the Bones. But other than that, it's fairly standard in the main deck. And then the sideboard, the only unusual element, I guess, is that I played more Read the Bones than anybody there, too, and the Anafenzas.
Right. So we have one more round to go today. You're clear of the field. You can't not be in the top 4. What do the next few days look like for you in terms of how you prepare for the top 4, how you spend your time here? What'll that end up looking like for you?
The line share, I mean, I'm going to be doing a lot of resting and trying to get unjet lagged. Like,
sure.
You know, a few days ago I woke up at midnight,
yeah.
And then 2 nights ago I woke up at 1:30. Last night I woke up at 3. I'm hoping that by the time Sunday rolls around, I'm on a normal sleep schedule a little bit. I'm also going to do a little bit just here in Nice, and I will do some testing, but there's only 2 rounds, and their matchups, you know, it's a lot of decks that I've played against before and I'm already comfortable with. The possible exception being Yuya's. I'll probably want to get a few more games against that, but
sure.
Probably do a little testing, but a lot of rest, relaxation, and touristy stuff.
Yeah. So
also a lot of railbirding the Magic World Cup.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
That's going to be a lot of fun. So I mean, this is your second, you know, trip to the elimination rounds here at Worlds. You know, 2007. So what did you learn anything from that event about how to face that, or maybe even from your Pro Tour journey to Nick's experience that you'll apply to playing in the semifinals and ideally finals of this event?
Well, I think the mentality is, my mentality is a little bit different than it was back in New York, the Worlds that you speak of. There I was still pretty excited about making top 8, and I was doing a little too much celebrating at the wrong times, and I wasn't always as razor focused as I could be, and I think that for Atlanta, very much had the strategy of just can think about all the other stuff after the tournament's over. For now, just keep doing each of the steps necessary to maximize my chances of winning the tournament. So
the idea that sort of notion of just happy to be here or just happy to make top 8 is actually a real thing in Magic. That's something that you see players do.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that. I mean, because top 8s are the gold standard for Magic accomplishments. I mean, once you've made a top 8, you've made it in some capacity.
Right.
And if you make 2 top 8s, then But once I stopped caring about any of that stuff and was just focused on winning, it feels like I've been in a better position to make sure to play the absolute best. Plus, part of it is, I mean, I got the luckiest most recently. And I'm hoping to get lucky again because you really do. Like, this is a 24 of the best players in the world. Any edges you can get are going to be fairly small. You're going to have some things break your way too.
Sure.
So all you can do is give yourself the best chances you can.
Sure. Now you've talked before about how for the longest time you've wanted to be a world champion. When do you remember like having that first inkling of wanting that title?
Reading about Zach Dolan. When Zach Dolan, like I remember reading the coverage when he won the first Magic World Championships, and I wanted, you know.
So just 20 years?
Yeah, I guess just 20 years. And I think that my focus, though, has really changed after the change of the World Championships to be such a small invite-only thing. I had kind of taken it for granted that I was going to be invited to, Worlds, and I didn't push it as hard. Once it became clear, actually, no, this is not a given. you're going to have to work your butt off to even get a shot in the room. I kind of changed my focus and was willing to give up lots of other stuff to be able to focus on trying to accomplish this goal, because when I'm 60, I'm going to want to be able to look back on this type of accomplishment, at some point, as many years as it takes.
Right. Right. And do you think, like, of the 24 players playing in the event, that maybe you're more aware of the
passage of time because I'm old?
No. I was going to say the scarcity of opportunities to compete for such a title.
I don't know. I guess it's hard to say for
Which may be a fancy way of saying because you're old. I'm not sure.
I guess I can't be totally sure how aware other people are or how many people would even share my perspective, but I know that most of the other people in this event are able to spend a lot more hours playing Magic. Now, I've had the benefit of playing Magic more than most people on Earth over the course of my life,
right.
But right now I'm working 80 plus hours a week, so it takes, I can't, like, for instance, it's hard to go to very many Grand Prix. I wish I could go to more. They're so super
right.
fun, but because of not being able to just go to Grand Prix, there's less opportunities for pro points, which then snowballs into having less of a shot at getting platinum or an invite to Worlds or anything like that.
Right. So tell me a little bit about what you've seen in the standard field so far. Like, what decks have any other decks besides the Abzan deck you're playing impressed you? Have you seen any kind of interesting innovations in standard for this event?
Yeah, there's definitely some interesting things going on. The metagame kind of took a big shift. I guess I wasn't expecting it to shift quite as much as it did,
right.
But Paul actually nailed it. He had a read on the metagame that it was going to shift hard towards whip decks, and so what we've seen here, there's a lot of Abzan, right. But there's a ton of graveyard decks of two basic varieties. One are the Sultai, like Sidisi whip decks,
right.
With Hornet Queen being the big end there, yeah. And then the black-green Constellations deck that Huey, Owen, and Reed are playing,
right.
Which isn't totally a graveyard deck, but it has a lot of graveyard elements that are important, like Hornet Queen and Whip. And there's a ton of those types of decks. And then there's a little smattering of a lot of other things, with the most interesting deck that I saw out of the rest being Yuya's new take on Jeskai. There's some other people playing Jeskai, but this take on Jeskai is kind of tweaked a little bit, like no Mantis Riders.
Right.
It actually took out the Mantis Rider for Jeskai Ascendancy, of all things, which is amusing, and moved away from Dig. Away from Dig to play Treasure Cruise instead. So he's playing a very tokens-based
right.
strategy. And
Hordling Outburst has been a big card that I've seen in three or four different decks. I mean, obviously all doing the same thing in terms of making tokens, but that seems like a card that has really advanced in its status in the standard environment.
Oh, absolutely. That card was not super big at the Pro Tour, but it seems like every week the card's been building momentum, and he used it to great effect, not only triggering his prowess, but getting a bunch of bodies that he could use to go off effectively with Jeskai Ascendancy. Because sometimes the way his deck plays out, he looks like a control deck, and he just has 3 tokens randomly in play from, like a Hordling Outburst. And then out of nowhere, he'll drop Jeskai Ascendancy, chain 3 or 4 cards in the same turn, and go off, where you take 15 out of nowhere.
Yeah, and you and Yuya have been sort of circling each other as the tournament advances. Have you been thinking about how you beat that deck?
Well, he was actually my only loss in Standard.
Oh.
Yeah. Now I am optimistic of being able to do a little bit better. I was a little light on land in that particular spot. However, I'm at a disadvantage compared to all the previous Abzan decks I played, because for this tournament, part of the way we made room for those on-offenses was cutting all the Drowning Sorrows.
Uh-oh. All right, well, you'll have some toolboxing to do, figure out how you get around that moving forward. But I'm going to let you get back out there and do a little bit more of your victory laps. And
it's not a victory yet.
It's not okay. So for Patrick Chapen, this is Brian David Marshall, sending it back to the news desk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the news desk. Good luck, Rich. I don't speak any Japanese, but I'm delighted to say that the fabulous Kyoko Yoshida does indeed. How did I do with the name?
Kyoko. Yeah.
Kyoko. Okay, that's a good start. And of course, many of you will know Yuya Watanabe, 2-time Player of the Year. Now, we've had a little chat. We have some idea of the questions and we have some idea of the answers, so we'll see how we do. Of course, the first thing we all want to say is many congratulations on making the top 4. Brilliant.
おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
おめでとう。
はい、ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. So away we go then. You won the Players' Championship in 2012, this event, the first small World Championship. What was that experience like for you?
2010年に世界選手権を勝った時の、まあ、思い出っていうかその時感じたことをちょっと
なるほど。
聞かせてください。
まああれですね、2勝4敗からスタートして、まあ2日目今回みたいに駆け上がって勝って、まあ、非常に疲れるトーナメントでしたね。で、まあ決勝トップデッキでブラッド・ブレイデルフをトップデッキして、まあ勝てて、まあそのブラッド・ブレイデルフが今でモダンの禁止カードになったなっていうのがなんか思い出深い。
ブラッド・エルフ。
ブラッド・ブレイデルフ。
ブレイド。Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. So he started at 2-4. A 2012 event.
Okay.
And then he did well after that. And at the very end, 最後のゲームですね。At the very end,
2-4から2日目今回みたいに全勝して。
Yeah, he won all the way. And at the very end of the event, he drew the blood blade elf.
2-4から今回みたいに全勝してとりあえず疲れたなっていう話と。
And okay, I'm sorry. He started 2-4,
Yep.
and at that time he was very exhausted.
Okay.
Yeah. And the second day.
で、決勝で、最後の場面で血神のエルフブラッド・ブレイデルフをトップデッキして勝てたのが非常に印象的でした。
Okay, the second day he did pretty well, and at the very end of the game, he drew the blood
Blade
elf, and that was perfect, and he remembers really well.
Okay, so I guess he enjoyed that. Now, was that event stressful? Was it difficult? Was it great fun? Does he enjoy playing the best players?
その時のイベントはもうすごいストレスを感じたか楽しかったかどういう気持ちだったか。
いやもうすごい楽しかったです。もう対戦相手は全員強いですし。
A lot of fun. All the players he plays against, best players in the world. A lot of fun.
Okay, so the next question that we looked at, winning this event, winning that event in 2012 compared to his other Player of the Year title.
その時の思い出と比べてother players of the year title 他のプレイヤーオブザイヤーのタイトルと比べてどうですか？
そうですね、この年だけプロポイントじゃなくてこの大会でやったっていうのは、自分の中ではちょっとなんだかなって思うんですけど、優勝できて本当に良かったなっていうのもあるんで、難しいなまあまあなんというかそのこの年だけそのプロポイントが特殊だったんですけど、本当だったらプロポイントで僕1番だったんで、なんで僕ピュアじゃないのって思いながら参加してたんですけど、まあ、優勝できたんで結果オーライかなみたいな。
Oh, okay. Yeah, this year, especially, he also had the top pro points.
In 2012,
so, yeah, 2012.
He was already the top pro points.
Yeah, so he was like, why, they changed the rules. I
So
was
he won
already
it
at the
twice.
top. Yeah.
Right, he won it twice.
But
I get
either
it.
way, he won
Sure.
it. So, it doesn't matter anymore.
Okay, so this weekend started out 0-2, then 1-3. We want to talk about the mental preparation for beating a great field when you're so far behind early.
そうですよね。0-2から始まって 1-3 になって、それからどういう気持ちの切り替えを行いましたか？
そうですね、結構自然体で0-2して1-3して、その後も気持ちの切り替えとかは特になくて、まあ、ずっと自然体でやってましたね。
Yeah, he was pretty relaxed at 0-2, pretty relaxed at 1-3. So he just kept playing. He didn't really change his strategy or anything. He just enjoyed playing the game, and yeah.
And here
that's
we
what
are.
happened. Yep.
Okay, what does it mean to him that it isn't just him, but all 3 Japanese players that have done so well this weekend? Kentaro Yamamoto is in the top 4 as well. Japanese Magic perhaps has been a little bit quiet in the last few years, certainly compared to Player of the Year, Player of the Year, Player of the Year, Player of the Year in the mid-2000s.
今回は渡辺さんだけじゃなくて、あとの2人のプレーヤーもすごいいい成績を残したということなんですけど、日本のプレー、ずっと以前はプレーヤーオブザイヤーをずっと勝ち取っていったような時期から比べるとちょっとおとなしくなったんじゃないかなと思うんですけど、ここで3人勝ったということで、なんか日本のコミュニティにどういった影響があると思いますか？
そうですね、やっぱりプレイヤー・オブ・ザ・イヤー、昔は日本人のタイトルみたいなイメージがあって、最近はちょっとアメリカが強くなってきてて、何回もアメリカに取られちゃってますけど、今回の結果で、日本人、僕とか山本健太郎とか市川祐希の実力は示せたと思うので、またプレイヤー・オブ・ザ・イヤーのタイトルを奪還できるように頑張りたいと思います。
Yeah, the Player of the Year title was for Japanese players. It used to be, but the American players has been winning a lot of those titles. And then all three players played really well at this event, and he wants to win the title again.
Okay. All right. Has he thought about winning both events this week, and what would that mean for him and for Japanese Magic?
世界選手権とワールドマジックカップを両方勝つということに対して意欲を教えてくださいということと、それはジャパニーズコミュニティにとってどういう影響があると思いますか？
今回ワールドチャンピオンシップとワールドマジックカップ両方非常に十分な練習をしてきたので、あさってから始まるワールドマジックカップも優勝を目指して頑張りたいと思います。で、日本にやっぱりトロフィーを持ち帰れるということはとても栄誉あることなので、それを目指して頑張りたいですね。
He practiced and prepared a lot for this week, and so he wants to, of course, win both titles and then bring the trophy back to Japan.
Okay, our final question. We don't often get the chance to hear from you because we don't often have a Kyoko to translate for us. So is there a message that he would have for all his fans out around the world who love watching him play, his great play, his great decks?
あんまり渡辺さんと一緒に話す機会がないんですけど、渡辺さんのファンがアメリカもいるし世界中にいろんなところにいると思うんですけど、メッセージをお願いします。
メッセージ、そうですね。マジックは非常に楽しいゲームなんで、とりあえず、ここ見てる人も分かると思うんですけど、そのマジック続いていくなんて言えばいいかな、みんなマジックやりましょうってことで、であとレイディアントは2体出しちゃダメだよと。
I think I got that last bit. Go on.
He said he loves Magic. Just he wants to keep playing, and then he wants a lot of players to play as well with him. But don't play Radiant.
Don't play Radiant Legend cards. That is an awesome plan. I'm sure that is some kind of proverb. All right. To Yuya Watanabe, many congratulations again, and thanks on behalf of all your fans around the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that is Yuya Watanabe. You will be seeing him on Sunday for certain. He is in. Kentaro Yamamoto is in. Patrick Chapen is in. That leaves one chair left. Who fills it? Well, right now, one of the chairs in the studio is being filled by someone who could yet be defending their title. Why don't we head over to Brian David Marshall, who's sitting with Shahar Shenhar.
Thanks, Rich, and thank you, Yuya Watanabe. So one former player championship winner.
Yep.
To now a last year's world championship winner, and you're a match away from being able to having the opportunity to defend your title.
I had 2 win-ins, and I just lost this one, so hopefully I'll win this one.
What were your expectations coming into this tournament about being able to defend your title? Was that something you're like, I hope I can do that?
Yeah,
I think I will do that. Where were you?
Saying I think I will do that is like I think a little bit too much. Like that's not possible for me to actually think that I will do that. But I definitely hoped I will do that. It's like obviously my goal to do that. It's a dream to win back-to-back or even just top 4. I haven't top 4'd yet, so we'll see. I don't want to jinx anything.
Now you've been playing some. You're coming off a very strong Grand Prix finish a few weeks back in
2.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah.
So what have you done to sort of put it in overdrive here down the stretch?
Nothing really. Like I haven't been playing differently. Like I haven't been testing differently. I honestly think like I had a really bad run, and now I'm just having a good run. Like it's like
well timed.
Yeah, very well timed.
So any sense of who you might have to play in this last round? Because you know who you can't play.
Yeah, I can play Yamamoto or Huey. I can't play Yuya, and I can't play Chapen. So I think it's just between Yamamoto and Huey, and it's possible I can't play Huey because the way because of the opponents he played against. So I might just play Yamamoto next round.
Right. And so it could be a very wide gap in how the last round gets paired in terms of points.
Yeah.
So I mean, either way, that's kind of a humdinger, as they say, in terms of a matchup. So tell us a little bit about the deck you're playing in Standard and why you chose it.
Okay, this is just Willie Edel's deck, Sultai Whip. He's been doing really well with it on Magic Online. He, I believe, top-aided a GP with it, and then also top-aided the Mox with it, and he just never lost. And we were playing Jeskai for like the longest time and Abzan, but Jeskai it was pretty rough against the green decks, and Sultai, like Ashiok in the sideboard, is good against the Abzan. So we ended up playing Willie's Sultai deck, and it was very, very well tuned. So that's like always good to have a teammate who's like gonna specialize in that deck, and so that's like it was our plan B, but it was a good plan B.
Right, and you know the confidence in the deck is high when all 5 teammates are playing the same 75 cards.
Same 75.
Ashiok, is that an addition for this event, or is that something he was already playing?
No, he was playing 3 in the sideboard, or maybe he may have been playing 4 in the sideboard in one of the events, but we ended up playing 2 in the main and 1 in the sideboard, and then also the Farika as like the 4th Ashiok.
Okay, what was the impetus for putting that card in the main deck? What were you expecting, and how does that card play?
The Ashiok?
Yeah.
Oh, basically just Abzan decks and Sultai, just any whip deck, Ashiok is just insane against. Like, if they don't have Hero's Downfall, it's just going to be very hard to deal with, especially because you have removal spells for their threats. So like if you play Ashiok and they follow it up with a Siege Rhino, and you just kill their Siege Rhino, they're so far behind if they don't have the Hero's Downfall. So it's one of the best cards you can have in that matchup.
So with Ashiok at your back, what deck do you hope to face off against in this last round? Is there a dream matchup for you, and is there a nightmare matchup for you?
Well, I know what Yamamoto is playing. Yamamoto is playing Sultai Whip also. So, and he doesn't have Ashioks in the main, so I do have that going for me. I don't know his exact list because I haven't played him yet, but I did see a couple Reapers that he was playing and Farika from the sideboard as well, which we also have. But I didn't see Ashiok's game 1, so
okay.
I may have an edge game 1.
So if you do win that might take a long time.
Yeah. I mean, if he wins, it'll also take a long time. It's just a Sultai Whip mirror.
Right. Either way.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Patrick a little earlier. We were talking about what he was going to do in the intervening days between clinching a top 4 and playing in the top 4. Assuming you win this last round, I don't have to ask you what you're going to be doing because you're going to be captaining the Israeli team during the World Magic Cup.
I will.
So what are your expectations for the team? And could we see you playing in all the rounds on Sunday? Could you be the dream chaser we've been talking about all week?
My little brother told me about that little term. I thought it was pretty clever. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I haven't played with the guys. I have a lot of hopes for them. I talked to all of them. We Skyped. We were on Facebook groups. They all seem really, really smart. They all seem eager to win. They all have the drive, and they're competitive, and they're invested in this tournament, so we definitely have a good shot.
How much went into like the Team Unified Standard? Like how difficult a format was that? Without giving away anything in terms of a solution, how difficult is it to build a deck with 225 cards that don't overlap by more than 4?
It's not that difficult because they're just... You can just take a look at this like constructed metagame in this format. You can easily take 3 decks and basically have none of them contradict each other, overlap each other. Yeah. So it's not that hard. You just have to choose the mix that you want.
Right. Yeah. So finding the decks that you think are going to be good against the other decks you're expecting to see. Do you think at all about seat and how you?
One of the guys mentioned it, and I kind of threw that thought away. But we definitely could talk about it. I don't know how much it's going to how good it's going to do.
And then what's your strategy as far as what you're going to play and what you might maybe, do you see yourself sitting on the sideline coaching?
No,
or do you see yourself getting in there and playing as often as possible?
Yeah, we decided right from the beginning that I'm going to play both matches in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the idea is you're going to play, and then you're going to be able to look at those matches and get some additional input from the fourth team member.
Yeah, the fourth team member is mostly going to help one of the guys, and I'm going to help mostly that guy. So it's kind of be like a pair, and then sometimes I'll help him, and sometimes the other guy, if he wants to, can go help the other guy. But it's going to mostly be pairs, and then
So two-headed giant.
basically like that. Yeah.
Okay. Great. What about Team Sealed? Now you have a little bit of an edge on this field when it comes to Team Sealed. What did you learn from Grand Prix Nashville en route to your top two finish?
Communication is really, really important, and also watching the clock, because this format you really have there's so many options, and especially when you have to build 3 decks instead of 1. Even when you're playing just a regular sealed, you might just be running out of time in something that might even be considered a simple sealed. So that might not be the case. We can get a very tough sealed to build, and we really have to watch the clock.
Right.
But you also don't want to get nervous because the clock is ticking down. You want to make the right choice. So yeah.
So hopefully your experience playing on this big stage for the last 2 years comes into play there. What about, and I assume that's also true during playing the rounds, is it difficult to keep everyone focused on playing and not so much you're down to that last match and everybody has some input? Do you worry about clock there?
It's certainly not as much as you are worried about it in sealed, because these guys have been playing Magic. They know how to play a match. But it's a lot different when you're doing team sealed. It's just not the same format that everyone's used to. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you're not worried about that. You have something else a little bigger to worry about right now. You got one more match of Magic to play. I'm rooting for you. I'd love to see. I would love to see the Shahar Yuya Watanabe showdown of the previous 2 winners of this event tomorrow, or I should say on Sunday. But I'm going to let you get back out there, Shahar. Good luck. Have fun. Play some good Magic. I'm going to send it back to the news desk and Rich Hagon.
All right, thanks very much to Brian David Marshall and Shahar Shenhar. He has got a massive, massive, massive match coming his way in just a couple of minutes. Brian David Marshall is going to join me here at the news desk. We have standings after 13, and BDM, we need to give Shahar a couple of minutes just to compose himself, get himself to the feature match area, because of course he is going to be in the feature match area. I can tell you he is, as he expected, up against Kentaro Yamamoto. It is the Sidisi Whip mirror for all the marbles for Shahar Shenhar, it looks like. So that will be coming in just a moment. But what I'd like to do is take a look at the Master Scoreboard, BDM, and tease out some of the storylines that perhaps have got slightly lost in the shuffle, if you like. And I want to go right from 24 down at the bottom there, 4 and 9. We've got Li Shi-chan, Nam Samuk, and Paulavita Dama de Rosa, each of those competing for another pro point in this next round, just to try and get that 5th pro point, which is a hefty payday in terms of pro points.
It is, and maybe something even a little more on the line in terms of pride, because I know I heard a bunch of players outside talking, and they're like, okay, I think if I win my next round, I'm locked for top 4. You heard William Jensen talking about, well, maybe I can get into top 4 if I win, and Shahar loses. And then I heard Paulo chime in, Paulo Vitor Damadoros, and he's like, if I win my next match, I won't be last. So he does not. Players do not want to finish in last place in this event.
Yeah, there's a pride to that for sure. So that's your bottom 3 right now. Then we go up a win to a ton of people on 5 and 8, and just think for a moment about those 5 players at 5 and 8. A Pro Tour champion in Sivka, 4 Pro Tour top 8s for Adel, a Pro Tour finalist in Jacob Wilson,
multiple Grand Prix winner.
Right, indeed. The Rookie of the Year, the Player of the Year, and they're all on the wrong side of the halfway line at 5 and 8, looking to go 6 and 8 to close out their thing. I feel I'm really looking forward. Well, perhaps looking forward is not quite the right word, but I'm very keen to talk to Jeremy Desani because he was certainly going to be in my top 4. I thought that's where he might be, and it felt like he just never quite got going this weekend at any point. I don't think he ever had a run. There was no format where he crashed and burned. There was no format where he strung 3 wins together. He just lost a little more than he won, and that's why he's down there. So that'll be an interesting one to find out. But as we continue up, heading towards happier climbs, as it were, the people on 6 and 7, so that's Levy, Martel, Rietzel, and Lars Dam, can all finish at 50-50.
And Duke as well.
Right, sorry, yes, indeed. Five players at 6 and 7. Now, I would imagine there will be varying degrees of disappointment for most of those. But you know what? I think Lars Dam, quietly, if he goes 7 and 7, will think, I showed up against some of the best players in the world, and I did the business and held my head high for Denmark and for Thailand. Great warm-up for the World Magic Cup later in the week, captain of the Thai team.
I think if you talk to a lot of people who were handicapping this event and trying to figure out where people were going to finish, they would have had Lars Dam, mostly because he's one of the few names people aren't very familiar with. In the lower third of the field, right? People would rank him in the bottom 8, I think, in terms of expectation. And I think, again, this is someone who wins 70% of his premier Magic Online events.
Yet another player who demonstrates that Magic Online is a great proving ground.
And I think that Lars is someone who used to play on the Pro Tour and was trying to get himself to the gravy train, as they used to call it before we had gold, platinum, and he, a couple times came up a point short. 2 points short on the season, like 18 points on the season, 19 points on the season, just short of crossing a threshold where he could string together some qualifications. So, it's going to be interesting to see what he does and if he's able to carry some momentum forward, from an event like this.
Having never been in either of these positions in such exalted company, I'm not sure which is tougher. The frustration of the 5 and 8 never really got going, never quite got into it, or the 7 and 6 1-2 in a row, thought if I piece this third win together, then I'm really in business, I'm right in the mix. I look at some of the tweets Owen Turtenwald has been posting over the last couple of days with very high fun tweets for wins and very low desolation on the losses. He's had a real sort of very, and I think a lot of those have been almost in quotes, if you like.
Sure.
But nonetheless, at 7 and 6, I'm sure he's very frustrated that with just another win, he's potentially in Shahar Shenhar's position, because that's how close this field is. Owen's almost in the bottom half, and yet is 1 win away from potentially playing for the top 4.
But I think also at the same time he's pretty practical and knows coming away with 8 pro points if he wins this last round, coming away with 8 pro points that only 24 players have access to. That he is 8 points up on the field in terms of the opportunities to advance through the year. So, he's every match counts, and he's going to make the best of it. And coming forward with 7-8 points is a great start to the year for him. For the #1 ranked player in the Pro Tour top 25.
In 10th place right now is Josh Utter-Leighton going into the last round. Amongst all the slew of memories of Worlds Week, I am certain I will take away his incredible match against Stanislav Cifka.
Oh my gosh, that was unbelievable.
Right.
I didn't think he could win either time that he won.
Yeah.
Mulligan to 5.
In the decider. And after such a climb back into game 2, you felt, okay, this is a real anticlimax.
Right.
Because at 5, how do you win from 5? And well, you do this and this and this and this, and then you crush them utterly.
And then you have the Sultai charm.
Right.
For the perilous vault,
which was fantastic. So he currently in 10th place. Even Flock. Now we haven't got all the data in front of us for the 4 formats, but anecdotally, pretty sure he's not super happy to have gone blue-black control in standard, because he was ahead of the pace for top 4 overnight. He was on pace coming out of Vintage Masters. He went with the blue-black control deck, essentially, that he top 8'd at the Pro Tour with. And at 7-6, I think there are probably several decks that he has listed that he would rather he had ended up on.
I also saw a little bit of retribution. I saw him being attacked last round by 2 Nyx Fleece Rams and a Pearl Lake Ancient.
Wow.
Out of Lars Dam's Jeskai control deck.
That's savage. That's savage. So
they turned on him.
Right. 7-6 for Flock, 7-6 also for Yuuki Ichikawa, who, as Yuya Watanabe said, great to see all 3 Japanese players doing well. And he's right, because when we were preparing, he was saying, we're in good shape. We are in good shape for the final round of this tournament. It comes down to this: Shahar Shenhar, can he make it in to join Watanabe, Yamamoto, and Chapen? Let's find out.